Hi, today's lecture is dedicated to rehydration and dieting after exercise. So I think that the best topic that describe this issue could be something like recovery after the game, nutritional aspects. So let's start with some general theory of supercompensation to describe in short notice the importance of recovery process. When we are dealing with exercise, any kind of exercise, training session, gym-based session, or the game, we basically decrease the level of our ability or we produce the fatigue. And when we finish the training process, when recovery starts, then there is a famous concept of supercompensation that generally states that during the recovery process, the body is recovering or recuperating abilities, and in one point in time, which depends on fatigue that was produced, the level of fatigue that was produced during the training session or the game, we reach the phase of supercompensation, which means that at this point of time, the body is on the higher level that was with the previous training session. And this is the ideal time to start the new training session. So what does it basically mean? That we must load our body and then to wait some time for the recovery process to take place and to reach the supercompensation. So what does it mean? It means that training per se is very important. If the training is too easy, we will not reach the overload and we will not reach supercompensation or increasing the ability level. If the training is too hard, there is also a chance that we will not reach the supercompensation phase because too hard training session, especially a couple of too hard training sessions in a row can produce overtraining. So the training should be of optimal load. What does it mean? It depends on physical abilities. We will not go into details in this specific lecture. But what is important to remember is that the training process per se should be of the optimal loading. But the other part of the equation is the recovery process. If the recovery is not optimal, if the recovery period is too short or too long, we will not reach or we will pass the supercompensation phase of the recovery process, and benefits of the exercise will be diminished or will be close to zero. So, as we can see in the next slide, there is a great importance of the recovery process. And in nowadays sports science, we can say that we have very efficient training methods to easily fatigue our athletes for certain aspects of conditioning. But this highlights the importance of the recovery process. The training, or as some top-level coaches like to say, okay, the training that you are doing is excellent, but how many times per week can you do it? Or in other words, how fast do you recover is also very important in order to be able to repeat this optimal exercise pattern. And this recovery process is very important and it depends on several aspects. Some of them are hereditary. So top-level advanced athletes generally recover faster. But also it depends on other aspects of our everyday living. So recovery process depends on other elements of training process, or let's say in the last 2 decades, there is a significant amount of scientific research that has been focused on establishing effective recovery methods. So, when we are thinking about modern day in football, we can say that on average, top-level player plays somewhere around 70 games per year. Each match leads to acute fatigue characterized by a drop in athletic abilities in the following hours or days. And it seems that it takes up to 72 hours to recover fully, to be able to perform again or to train again. So what is the consequence of this high level fatigue that is produced in every game? There is a consequence that during a periods of congested fixture, when teams play 2 games per week, there is a high possibility of not being able to recover properly for the next game, and as a consequence, there can be underperformance, like nicely put in 2004 published article in 2004 by Ekstrand and Associates. They said that players who underperform in 2002 World Cup played on average 12 and a half matches in the 10 weeks leading up to the tournament. And in contrast to them, players who performed above expectations play relatively low number of games preceding World Cup tournament. And another published article in 2010 that said that the players who played twice per week had more than 6 times a chance to get injured than the players who played 1 game per week. So after each game, we have dehydration. Around 1.5 liters of our water is put it out of our body through sweat and breathing. And when we discuss about water, it quickly returns to normal values, around somewhere between 6 and 10 hours. But in this period of time, while we are lacking enough liquid in our body, there is severe decreases in glycogen resynthesis. And this is very bad for our body, and it will delay the overall process of recovery. So rehydration after the match seems to be very, very important, because if we don't rehydrate quick or well enough, we will reduce glycogen stores, and those glycogen stores will be slowly refilled. The concentration of those glycogen stores does not return to normal values within 2 or 3 days, and within those 2 or 3 days we have severe decreases in performance, and also there are small muscle injuries during every game. It is normal thing because of the eccentric contractions during the games. So this is the state of our body when we finish the game. Physical abilities after the match and dynamics of recovery, as we can see in this slide, strength, power, and sprint, all of those abilities significantly decreases after the game, and most of them does not come back up to 72 hours after the game. So, in order to accelerate recovery process, various training and non-training methods are used nowadays in modern football. Some of those that are most commonly used are active recovery, massage, water therapy, both cryotherapy, hot and cold baths, or just hot or just cold baths, compression garments, clothing, stretching, etc., etc. We will not go into the details, but what we can say for the most of these procedures is that researches generally does not support the use of aforementioned recovery methods in terms of improving objective training parameters. So most of these procedures, when doing research, showed relatively small or no effect on speeding up the recovery process. However, it should be noted that players feel that they have recovered faster, and they subjectively have better feeling and are able to perform easier the next training session. So most of these procedures has subjective effect on recovery processes, but when we are talking about objectively increasing, speeding up the recovery process, it seems that the whole sentence can be said in 2 words: rehydration and diet. So research indicates that the greatest positive effect on accelerated recovery processes seems to be associated with non-training methods, primarily rapid rehydration and replenishment of glycogen stores. When we are talking about rehydration after exercise, it seems that pure water is not the optimal choice because of low level of osmolality, and it seems that this pure water per se should not be the only thing that we are trying to do to rehydrate after the exercise, and we will discuss this in a few slides. Considering dieting after a game, it is very important to start dieting, to start replenishing glycogen stores as soon as possible. The coaches, strength and conditioning coaches, usually like to say, with the last whistle of the referee, you should start doing something to rehydrate and to regenerate, to restore glycogen stores, and we will see recommended procedures. But what is generally the situation immediately after the game? It seems that we have 2 hours window of opportunity as soon as referee whistles the end of the game. So in these first 2 hours, it seems that it is very important to do as much as possible to rehydrate and to resynthesize, to try to restore as much as possible glycogen stores. So what do we need generally? As we said already, we are lacking the liquid, the water within our body, but also we are lacking carbohydrates, because we are depleted. We have depleted glycogen stores in our body after the game. We lost some of the proteins because we have some small micro trauma or micro injuries in our muscles. We lack liquid and we lack electrolytes because of the sweating. We lose through sweating electrolytes. So, and when you get it all together, there is one very simple solution that seems to be very powerful for fast both rehydration and glycogen restoring. And the name of this product is chocolate milk. It seems that chocolate milk is the single best modality, single best beverage that can be used in order to quickly start replenishing both liquid in our body, water in our body, and both glycogen stores. And there are a few articles about this. Why chocolate milk is the best option? It seems like a best option because it has everything that we need. It has protein, very good, high quality proteins, whey protein and casein, carbohydrates, electrolytes, liquid. More than 95% of chocolate milk is water. So it is one-stop shop for everything that we need to restore our glycogen stores. And it has ideal ratio between carbohydrates and proteins, 3.25 to 1. Almost 3.5 grams of carbohydrates, simple sugars that are highly recommended just after the game, and 1 gram of proteins. This 1 gram of protein is 0.2 gram of whey protein and 0.8 grams of casein, and that is maybe not the best option, but we'll discuss it a little bit later. Also, the regular milk is very good, but the chocolate milk has one extra effect. It is sweetened with simple sugars, and that is exactly what we need right after the game. So there are several articles who said that players who consume chocolate milk have significantly lower levels of creatine kinase compared to those who drink sports drinks. And another article which stated that chocolate milk is equal or higher quality for rapid recovery compared to specially designed sports drinks of the same caloric value. So, if not better, chocolate milk is the same quality as best produced sports drink for a quick recovery. And As we can see in this slide, there is generally a timeline guide for optimum nutritional recovery after a soccer match. And when you look at just after the game, we need some recovery drink. Immediately after this, in a couple of tens of minutes, we need some snack with high carbohydrate value, caloric value. Then after this, we have a good meal, a collation, and a recovery drink just before the sleep. So, beside this, we shouldn't neglect, or we should underline one other important thing. We should not never forget that the best modality, the ultimate mean for the recovery after the game is sleep. And today, in many top-level teams, in top-level team sports like football and basketball, we have medical experts that are dealing only with sleep patterns. When to sleep, when to have power nap, etc., because during the sleep, there is everything for the recovery process of central nervous system and peripheral body parts, and we should never forget this. But aside of sleep, there is a general suggestion for the acute phase of recovery after the game. So immediately after the referee's whistle, we should ingest around half of the liter of chocolate milk and some of the water with it. Then we should do some foot massage for a couple of minutes. Then maybe myofascial release with foam rollers. Some static stretching, which is questionable if it has any positive effect. Then we should do some hip mobility. And as soon as we enter the shower room, we should ingest some high carbohydrates sports drink or honey or some simple sugars. Then maybe we can have 5 or 10 minutes icing, 10 to 15 minutes with Normatec compression garments, and immediately after this we should have some proper sandwich or a proper collation with some tuna sandwich or some also high carbohydrates sandwich. It should be around 65 to 70% of carbohydrates. And as soon as we enter the bus and go to the hotel, there should be a proper dinner waiting for us, also rich in carbohydrates. Some rice or baked potato, maybe the best option, or some pasta or some bread, etc. And there is one suggestion more. Maybe just before going to sleep, we should digest up to 15 grams of casein. It is low digestible protein, but very good for the sleeping during the sleep to additionally improve the protein level in our body, and then go to sleep. So, what can we say at the end? When we are considering recovery processes, it seems that most of the training procedures are not well documented or are questionable. And the best option for quick recovery is the quick rehydration and dieting process with some nice suggestions considering as soon as possible rehydration and glycogen restoring in our body. And those several sports drink can be used, or maybe chocolate milk as very cheap and very, very effective. In these 2 hours of the window of opportunity, we should use these 2 hours to rehydrate as much as possible and to restore glycogen stores as much as possible in order to reach the recovery process as much as possible in the next day or two and be able to perform at a high level as soon as possible, let's say in 2 or 3 days. That's all for this lecture. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you on some other occasion in days to come.